Porsche 718 Cayman. This used to be a very easy review to write. Since its 2005 conception, this has been perhaps the most complete car Porsche makes. Sure, the 911 range has more breadth, but the Cayman has always offered much of its noise and speed with an extra dose of mid-engined poise. So what's changed? Blooming emissions regulations, that's what. So we've ended up with a Cayman range powered almost completely by 4-cylinder turbo engines rather than sonorous flat sixes. On paper it's improvements across the board. In the real world, we'll see. The badge is new, too. Well, newish. Porsche 718 was the name scribed across a series of mid-engine, flat 4-race cars that competed in the late 50s and early 60s. You can probably forgive the marketing team at Stuttgart for grasping the opportunity to attach it to the newly flat 4 Boxster and Cayman, then. But the water somewhat muddies when you learn the 6-cylinder Cayman GTS and GT4 are now badged 718, too. As before, there are several tiers of Cayman ownership, echoed by the 718 Boxster range, which has gone the same 4-cylinder route, but which is now more expensive than its coupe sibling. Better reflecting how rivals price their hard and soft top model lines. Naturally the Boxsters leapfrog the Cayman's price, rather than the other, more benevolent way around. Once again there are standard S and GTS versions, while there's a Cayman T for the first time, too. The Cayman and Cayman T use a 2.0-liter 4-cylinder turbo, producing 296 bhp and good for 0-62 miles per hour anywhere between 5.3 and 4.7 seconds. Depending on whether you've ticked the Sport Chrono box and gone for the 6-speed manual or 7-speed PDK gearbox, they'll all top out at 170 miles per hour. The T is the lighter, slightly harder core variant, but think fabric door straps and the ability to pointlessly bin the aircon as opposed to a fire extinguisher, roll cage and single mass flywheel. Instead, treat it as a decent value rating of the nicest bits of the Cayman's options list, with the suspension, wheels and locking differential all added for around $7,000. Move up a tier and you'll get to the larger engine of the Cayman S, which used a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder turbo with 345 bhp. Dipping the 0-62 miles per hour sprint down to 4.6 seconds and lifting the top speed to 177 miles per hour. The 718 GTS initially used a 361 bhp version of the same engine, but, in a surprise but welcome U-turn, Porsche has once again given it flat 6 power. The new 718 GTS 4.0 gets a 394 bhp version of the Cayman GT4 single-coat S engine, as well as enjoying a bit of an options list haul and looking a bit meaner and more assertive, too. Mind it should, where the base Cayman kicks off at £44,000, the GTS drags the price past £60,000. Eek. Then there's the 718 Cayman GT4, the second iteration of one of the greatest sports cars of the modern age. The base engines are gruff, but the handling is as sweet as ever. Very few sports cars are this complete. This would be a lot easier if Alpine hadn't made a comeback. Even taking the lost character of those two absent cylinders into account, the Cayman remains a fantastic sports car with a real breadth of ability. If you never need back seats, and don't often carry big things, it's all the car you'll ever need. Alas, the A110 is a rather prickly thorn in the 718 single-coat S side, because it makes much more sense of having a downsized engine thanks to being even lighter on its feet than a Cayman. if you don't dare take the plunge on a smaller, more specialist car sold from the fancier corner of the Renault dealer, though, this Porsche really is a brilliant thing. Superlatively so if you choose the GTS or GT4, still gloriously flying the flag for nat asp flat 6s. Porsche nails the ergonomics of nearly everything it makes, and thus the 718 Cayman's driving position, visibility, steering wheel size and pedal positions are all nigh on perfect. Nobody does this stuff better. At least not in a car that so expertly balances the requirements of everyday use with the desires of us driving nerds. While this generation of Cayman effectively launched in 2013, the 718 treatment, and flat for arriving with its 2016 facelift, it doesn't feel dated in here. Helped by a media system running CarPlay and its ilk. A little bit of age means the dials are analog, too. A rare treat nowadays, and one we suspect the next General 718 won't offer. Especially given its rumored all-electric drivetrain wouldn't need a big fat central rev counter. Spexing tips? Get the best seats you can afford. Porsche offers some brilliant sports buckets if you can stomach their slightly eye-watering price. Keep the steering wheel relatively simple, but spec Sport Krona. It adds a driving mode dial to the wheel, which flicks between varying levels of sharpness and firmness for the engine and suspension, while also adding rev matching for the manual gearbox and a mid-mode for the stability control. Porsche's brilliantly nerdy key upholders are present and correct, too. They've been a mainstay in its sports cars for well over a decade, but the latest 911 has ditched them, which is all the hint we need that the next 718 will, too. We'll mourn their passing. Wonderfully damped, expertly constructed and with a little illustration on their cover that appears to display a punchy little cocktail rather than a hastily bought latte. It's the little things that make us smile. So that's all about 718 Cayman. See you on the next video.